Morning. Hey, Vegan Sista and Carly Bryce and Mike on Raw. So everybody can see me. I'm guessing everybody can hear me. Great, great. And just so I just want to do a little check. The great, you can see and hear me. There's a pretty loud blower behind me, and I'm hoping that it's not creating either like an annoying sound for anyone, or that it's not affecting people's ability to hear me or what have you. Okay, seems like everything is great. So I'm pretty excited already. We have some folks. Um, obviously today is the first day that I'm having an opportunity to chat with people live since our election. I mean, our inauguration of our new president. So just I want to let everybody, I want to shout out. We have some folks who are sitting in, who are, it's your first time. If it's your first time on YouNow, welcome to YouNow. If it's your first time sitting in on a live stream with me, welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Reg Flowers. I have a YouTube channel and make all kinds of content, really looking at issues through an intersectional lens, with an emphasis on race and veganism. The blower is very faint. Okay, good. Faint is good. That's one of the reasons that I use the mic instead of having it, because it's right here. But one of the things that I enjoy most about this live stream and having the opportunity to be with you in real time is that we can have folks guest. So you're going to hear me say a lot. Please get on the queue to guest, and I'm gonna just, like, right now, jumping off the bat. Okay, I'm gonna get into a couple of things. So people who've been following the channel, there's a little bit of, there's been some there's been some activity on the channel recently. So just to give everybody some background, there's one particular viewer who's also a content creator, someone who's just getting started, and it's always great to have new folks sharing their voices. This particular person is a vegan. Junkies aren't vegan. It's your first time on YouNow, so I'm shouting you out. Welcome to YouNow, and welcome to this live broadcast. So there's this one particular content creator who has been kind of jumping in and is a skeptic. And I don't have any problems with people being skeptical about things that I might say, about information that I might share. But I kind of have a firm stance that it's not my job to provide a basic foundation in things like race relations, or if there's an issue that I'm discussing, there's plenty of information out there. The series that I run on the channel is called Food for Thought, and the whole idea is that it's just these brief commentaries on issues that are current, or that I think will be of interest to the people who watch the channel. And my hope is that people will go off and they will, one, verify the things that I'm saying. I don't expect anyone to be kind of a blind follower or anything like that. That people will verify things that I'm saying, but also, if you want to engage in the discussion, get a, read some articles. There's plenty of things out there. I don't know if many of you are familiar with YouTube content creator Abantume, but Abantume says, I won't teach you things that you could easily Google, right? So if you can type in the word and get the definition and learn a little bit about the background, there's no reason for me to create a wall of text in the comments section just to be able to have a basic conversation. Hey, Mad Blender, welcome. So, I'm imagining that maybe some people will want to respond to that, because a fair number of you have been engaging with that person on the channel, and then I don't mean to call you out, but this particular individual made a video about, actually has made 2 or 3 videos now about Vegan Sista. And Vegan Sista, you're here. Vegan Sista says, absolutely, it's not our job to educate someone. Yeah, it's not. I don't think of myself as a teacher. I feel like, wow, here's some information that you may not have known. Hopefully you will. Wiccan Vegan, thank you for inviting 132 fans to the broadcast. Here's a little bit of information. Go out, verified. I try to provide links for people to go and at least be able to see some of the research materials that I used. But otherwise, there are just books and magazine articles and webzine articles, and there's so much information out there for people who are interested in veganism, number one, for people who are interested in the history of race relations, and I focus generally on the history of race relations in the United States, but have recently started looking at the development of different kind of racial attitudes through history, and so started digging way back, and I've been reading about the Egyptians, and I've been reading about the Ethiopians, and all that stuff is really interesting. So you guys are going to see some videos about that stuff from me as well. But as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, it's day 2 of the Donald Trump presidency, so I'm sure that there might be some people who have ideas about that. People have already been posting, and one person mentioned, a viewer that I call Goddess, mentioned the fact that the presidential website has been updated, and so many of the issues that had been there, things talking about like the LGBT plus community have been taken down. All kinds of things about equality, all of these things have been just taken down from the website, just as a sign that there's a new cat. There's a new cat in the office who's got their own ideas. Hey, Kerny, welcome. So I want to talk to y'all. I don't want to spend half an hour begging you guys to get on. So I'm gonna just go ahead and see if I can try to get some people in the queue. You guys can always say, "Hey."
Morning. How are you? I like how
Good.
you called me out.
But I
Just
didn't call you. I
in
didn't
my
call
book.
you out. I just clicked you. I just clicked you out. But I'm so glad you're here.
I am
Good
too.
morning, Vegan Sister.
Good morning.
How's Chi-Town? You back?
Oh my God. I'm actually working on editing a video now, but the Women's March in Chicago was so lit.
Oh,
So
wow, wonderful.
so what happened was the organizers were expecting about 60,000 people to show up.
Okay, one thing before you jump in, I just want to give some background so people may not be aware, but there were women's marches organized all over the country. There was a huge one in New York, there was one in Detroit, and apparently there was one in Chicago, and we're going to get a little bit of a report back from Vegan Sister from the Women's March in Chicago. Come on.
Yes. So the organizers for the Women's March in Chicago were estimating 60,000 people were going to show up. Chicago brought 250,000 people.
That's what I'm talking about. Raise the roof, y'all. If you can send them little applause hands up and the thumbs up, all that stuff. Let's for Vegan Sister and for that really wonderful news. Go
Oh yeah.
ahead, Chi-Town. Go ahead, Windy City. So what? So
So
so talk about it.
yeah, so just to give like a little bit of the logistics, so because so many people showed up, they flooded the route that the city had permitted to actually march on. And they technically canceled the march. But this is Chicago. We march anyway.
All
So,
right. So y'all took to the streets of
okay.
Chicago.
Chicago took to the streets.
Wow.
I was very much impressed with, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was very much impressed with CPD, Chicago Police Department. They were very accommodating to the fact that 250,000 people were marching, and they, once they caught up to us, they rerouted us to a better area. But like the city got shut down, buses couldn't move, cars couldn't move. It was crazy, but the atmosphere was so good.
Hmm.
The speakers that they had pre-March
Hmm.
were the organizers did a very good job of making sure people of different experiences got to be a part of the rallies. So there was a woman there who said, I'm marching for my mother's right to wear hijab. Another woman talked about how she wanted to make sure all the black girls out there who wanted fields in STEM had the opportunity to without racism or sexism um, preventing them to. There was a lot of resources for people who were um, limited mobility and people who were deaf or hard of hearing and hard of seeing. There were services for them. So I was very much impressed that with Chicago. Um, yeah, but we shut the city down yesterday, and it was great. And everybody was such a family, so everybody was there. Everybody showed up. It was great.
That's good. That's good to hear. 'Cause it's kind of my favorite kind of march. Because I posted some video from the MLK march
Hmm.
last week, and it's great to get out there and to be able to chant and have people in the streets be aware that there are folks who are concerned and are wanting to engage, right? And you kind of are waving people in, and you see people wanting to just drop what they're doing and join the march. But there really is. I always feel a little bit weird, like when we're being so good and we're going along the route that was
Yeah,
planned for
yeah,
us by them.
right, right, exactly.
So I always feel it's kind of nice when
Chaos happens.
you decide, like, what happens when it is not what was planned, and can people still manage to be engaged and organized and have solidarity.
Oh yeah.
So I want to ask a question. So I have a question. You mentioned field and STEM.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that for the folks at home like me who don't really know what that is?
Okay, so STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math.
Ah,
And
okay.
and so I actually work at a STEM school for it's a school for anybody in the state of Illinois who's gifted in STEM fields. And what we see most of the time is people who dominate STEM fields tend to be the same kind of people. They tend to be white and they tend to be male. So ideally, we would like to see more people with different experiences in STEM fields.
Okay. All right. So cool. All right. So now we got the report back on the march. You okay? You got a new
Ah.
president. You okay?
So I was actually thinking about this. I was creating a little bit of a video this morning, and it hasn't even been 72 hours yet, and I'm already annoyed.
Tell me, why are you annoyed?
So, Trump's inauguration happened on Friday, and they're estimating approximately like 250,000 people on the outside showed up. Like, that's a generous number, saying 250,000 people showed up.
Hmm.
And already his press secretary is saying the media's lying. Trump's saying the media's lying, that he thinks that there are 1 million people there. And while in the meantime, 2.9 million people marched yesterday for the Women's March. It was
Hmm.
all over the world. It wasn't just
Yes.
America. There was,
Okay.
there was in, like, I think somebody just said there was one in Paris. There was marches in Kenya and all kinds of all over the world. 2.9 million people marched, and our president has not yet made a statement about it.
Wow.
And that is what's frustrating me. Like, you're more focused about the numbers of your inauguration than the fact that 2.9 million people marched yesterday in direct opposition to you and things you've said.
Hmm.
So, and I just don't know how I'm going to function over the next 4 years.
Got you. But we're going to. We're going to.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So I'm a little I just want to there's an issue that I want to jump into.
Hmm.
Um there's been, and I don't want to, there's just been this idea, there's been this kind of tension happening recently where, you've been called out and I've been called out for simply talking about
I
the
know.
realities in our lives, the realities in the lives of the people that we see, trying to, present these things in a forum where we can have some open discussions about, how other people are experiencing them.
Yeah.
And, we're seeing, what I've called, I'm going to call it out, what I've called, kind of like white fragility, right? This and this is not to be insulting or racist, but it's a term that was coined by Robin DiAngelo, who's a psychologist who has developed this theory for years, and she just talks about this idea that there are some people who are not comfortable with the idea of discussions about race, even the idea of discussions about race, like not that they want to engage in them, but they don't want other people to be engaging in discussions about race, because race is supposed to be race is invisible for for white people.
Hmm.
Race is invisible for white people. And I actually had someone, I was engaged in a kind of a really interesting discussion with someone who I believe identified as white, and they said, if black people are the only people who are allowed to refer to themselves as black, if a white person refers to themselves as white, it's seen as racist. And I thought, really, that's what you think? And I don't know. I would love to hear from other people. If you if you are white, are you uncomfortable describing yourself as white?
Hmm.
And if so, is it about you or about the way that you feel you've been treated when you've brought up the discussion of your own whiteness? And see, this is one of those things, and this is why race is a tricky subject, because racism, white supremacy, these things, for the most part, as far as their connection to the structure or as they exist within a structure, they're invisible.
Hmm.
People don't come out and say, wow, I hate black people, so let me do this thing. People don't come out and say, I hate women, so let me do this thing. The
Hmm.
system is already set up to
Oh yeah.
work in favor of a certain group, and all you have to do is let the system just do its thing.
Hmm.
And it's automatically going to benefit some people. It's not about, at this point in time, about being malicious. It's simply about sitting back and being passive and allowing, you know, most of our, government representatives to continue to be men, right? So it's not, and even though that might be in terms of, in our population, we don't live in a population where most people are men. So why would we have a mostly male leadership? And even if it were the case, our government is supposed to represent all of us. So regardless of the fact that there may only be, one person of a certain background, right? That person's voice deserves to be heard. And so really understanding structures of oppression and the way that they work. It's not something that, you can walk into a space and have somebody say, it looks like this. Here it is, right? Because it's something that is, these things are interconnected. This is why we have these intersectional approaches to analyzing them. So,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts? Now that I've said all that, what are your thoughts about that? I want to leave you with some thoughts, and then I see that we have a couple of people who might be able to jump in and join this discussion and maybe add some opposing viewpoints.
So going back to an example of women in STEM, the reason we see a lot of women not pursuing STEM fields, right, is because less than 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to pursue STEM fields. Women weren't allowed to go to a lot of colleges that had the best professors to teach STEM fields, but men were. So men have historically been able to have these mentors, these and the resources to get an education as to become an engineer, to become a mathematician, to become these things. It wasn't until very recently that women have been afforded this opportunity, right? So now, when women go and try to get these opportunities, they don't have the same connections. They don't have that same lineage and that camaraderie as their male counterparts. And
Hmm.
I have a girlfriend who's pursuing a PhD in engineering, and she says with each degree she's received, she's noticed that the people around her look less and less like her. So, like in college, it was already hard to find another Asian woman around her. But then, as she finished her bachelor's, and then she goes into her master's classes, and she's not only the only woman, she's the only Asian woman. and now she's pursuing her PhD, and she says it's so difficult for her to find a mentor because and she feels like part of that is because she doesn't look like any of the professors around her, whereas her male counterparts may have one, they're white men, and the people that they're pursuing as mentors are also white men, and there's also that camaraderie and that and kind of that like, oh, my dad also went to Princeton and blah blah blah, and we're a part of
Hmm.
the same fraternity, and I want to take this person on because I want to be able to be a part of that brotherhood, et cetera, et cetera. So it is very difficult. So even though it's not like this blatant, we don't want women in STEM fields,
Hmm.
right? No one's saying women shouldn't become engineers. There is a
Right.
system in
And
place.
they may even be saying, "Women, come on, what's going on? We want you to
Yeah,
become engineers.
exactly.
Come on, we're welcoming you. We're welcoming you
Yeah.
into our space, right?"
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's something else that people also miss is
Hmm.
when people feel like, well, we've invited them into our space, not understanding that what we're looking for is a space that belongs to all of us,
Right.
where
Right.
one group doesn't have the authority to invite or disinvite. Because in inviting, it also demonstrates your authority to disinvite,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
who wants to be in that space, right? Who wants to be in
Yeah.
that space?
Yeah.
So and I don't expect anyone to fully grasp that idea. Because it may just sound, like people are being bitter, but when the entire experience of your life is waiting to be invited into someone else's space, that's
Exactly.
not equity. That's not
Exactly.
equity.
Exactly.
S-
Exactly.
So, so I don't want you to go anywhere
Okay.
because I feel like we might get a little bit of a debate going on. I'm gonna bring on a next guest. We're gonna say goodbye to you for now.
All right.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. So so thanks, vegan sister. And I see that there's all kinds of activity going on down in the comments. We have folks talking about, STEM fields are crying out for. This is Earthling Carl says STEM fields are crying out for more women. It says women Carl also says it's hard to read the comments because you guys are commenting so fast that it keeps bouncing away. So Carl, you're saying that STEM fields are crying out for more women, but they often don't choose those majors. You've said a couple of things here, and so I really want to give you an opportunity to speak to the folks and offer your insights on why how you feel these structural oppression, people are structurally excluded from spaces. People don't feel a sense, not necessarily feel, but there are no indications in these spaces that these people belong. So, right, you go someplace, there's nothing is catered for you, nothing is sort of designed for you. There are these. So, I'm going to try one more time. I was trying to invite Earthling Carl to jump on the stream. It looks like he's not available. Sorry, Earthling Carl. So I'm gonna see. Is there anybody else who wants to jump in? It looks like maybe Jack is saying someone's at the door. I can't believe you guys can even hear Jack. Okay, Jack. So there was a response to something that Earthling Carl had said. I believe it was Mad Blender. I'm trying to have create some sort of some balance here, but I'm really disappointed that I wasn't able to invite Earthling Carl to state his case. Lily K says, "Do you need to choose those fields to be a leader?" Um, Mike on Raw says thus worse than the playing field not being even. It is more like, oh my goodness, is more like the game is I can't even. I guys, I can't read your comments because you guys are commenting so quickly. Um, well, I'm just gonna bring that's the more like the field. It's more like the game is in some ways different. So I'm gonna. I want to. That's more than the. That's worse than the playing field. Okay, so let me see. STEM is just another education trend. Not Redneck to Vegan says STEM is just another education trend. Not a fan. Mad Blender says my son is running around like a maniac. I can't jump on right now. I'm gonna bring on. Let's bring on. What is it that you mean education trend? Perfect question, Carly Bryce. Let's bring on Redneck to Vegan, who had something to say about STEM as an education trend. Maybe hearing a different perspective. So again, we're talking about how to create equity in these various fields where there are people who have not historically have not been welcomed. Historically, we've seen the same people over and over again excelling, and trying to get an idea of like maybe is there something that's happening systemically that's leading to people not. So I was trying to invite Redneck to Vegan. Oh, Redneck to Vegan doesn't have a camera on this machine. Let's see who else. So you know what? It's time to. So there was a question about. I wonder if there's anybody who can speak particularly to lovely Muriel. It's your first time on You Now. Welcome. Um, well, Mike on Raw seemed to have couple of things to add to this. Maybe Mike can. Mike, maybe do you want to jump on and guest with me here and talk a little bit about this from your perspective? Obviously, we can we can also move on from our discussion of STEM and talk about some other aspects, some of the other ways that we see systemic racism, sexism, these systems of oppression currently operating in a world where you know there's no law that stops people from participating, right? It's not law that stops people from participating, is it? Or is it? Or what is it that is now operating that makes that creates challenges to some groups while benefiting while benefiting others? So Redneck to Vegan says, Vegan Sister and Carly Bryce, in education there are trends or focuses that often seem to change every few years, like No Child Left Behind and more. So I hope that answered the question for folks. Okay, so Carl is saying that he hasn't quite figured out how YouNow is working. Lily K is asking, what does it mean? Still don't understand what it means. And I'll try to talk a little bit about it. What I've seen just recently is because I don't work in a school, but I work in facilities that are schools. And I see, science, what is it? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And there are some schools that have added an A, and it's called STEAM, and that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it's really this creating, I want to say it's almost like a cookie cutter template for certain types of programs that harvest certain types of learning skills from certain types of people. And in my experience, is it tends to, as Vegan Sister says, it tends to create this, hierarchy in the learning system. The folks that excel in those areas start to rise to the top. But, we're talking about, we don't have social sciences included in that. So there are many other bodies of knowledge that really are key to having a well-rounded society that are, being, put on the bottom. So I'm going to call in, I'm going to, Kerny, I've got Kerny V in the queue. So let's bring on Vegan Kerny coming to us live
Hey,
from.
what's up? My screen just froze. All
I
right,
see you. I
what's
see
up?
you.
Having fun
Hello.
times.
Oh, nice. You make me want to run downstairs and get me some citrus, but I won't. Hey, we match. You got the memo. Oh, nice. All right, man. So what's up? Let's.
Not much actually. I really don't know anything about like this topic you're talking about. I was just
Uh
gonna.
huh. Come on, whatever you want to
Um,
talk about, we'll roll
actually,
with you.
I can't really stay for very long, anyways. So
Come
I
on, what you
just
got?
I did want to just ask you if you have any experience with sort of an idea um, that kind of relates to like this whole topic of and sort of forgive me because I don't really know much about it to begin with. I've only sort of dabbled in it a bit, but the whole thing where like you have male dominated fields and there's no women seen in these different areas of whatever, right? Um, I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to sort of remember, but I was reading something. I don't know if this may have nothing to do with it, but I don't know. Are you familiar with anything about like the idea of male disposability at all?
I am not. Please, let's talk a little. Like, tell us, fill me in a little bit, and that might be something to. That
Okay,
might be
so I
something to do
just
some research on.
I want to toss it out there that it's not something to like sort of be in opposition to any of the other social justice ideas that are going on, but it's there's some people who are basically saying that all of these people, we have like the rise of like feminism and the LGBT stuff and stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
the progression for I don't want to say like raising the status or but like the continuing of progressing ideas that have to do with men and like people who already sort of maybe already dominate these different fields that are mostly for men or that just have no women in their fields, but anyways, it basically is talking about how for a really long time, it may be even like a completely self-imposed male idea, but there's some people who think that like men put themselves in the position where they have to be disposable, basically. You hear about all the men going to war and dying in wars. Basically, all of the sort of dangerous workplaces are mostly male-dominated fields.
Mm-hmm.
All of the workplace injuries, all the suicides related to these types of things are all mostly from men. Like, um, and I don't really know. I feel like that kind of ties into it. It's like maybe some men feel like they have to take up this role. You know, they have
Mm-hmm.
to be the man, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It seems like that's been something that's happened for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. I just wanted to get your idea on it. You
Well,
can
it's
look
really.
it up. It's just Anyways, go. What were you gonna say?
I definitely would like to do look up what you're talking about a little bit more, and I'm often interested in this conversation, and I think I've even talked about this in some previous videos. First of all, this idea of men being the head of the household, even, right? So
Yeah.
that's a fairly modern concept, and by modern I mean in the last 3, 4, 500 years
Mm.
of civilization, right? In
Yeah.
agrarian societies, my understanding is that there was far more balance. Uh, there was far more balance among between the the sexes. Let's say the sexes, right? And even possibly there was far more understanding of the way, gender worked, right?
Hmm.
But this idea, even if, let's say that men are stronger than
Well,
women,
I mean, biologically, yeah,
biologically,
yeah.
biologically, and I'm just, and this is because I don't want anybody to jump down my throat, because I know that there are examples of women who are stronger than, the majority of men, right? Because
Hmm.
they've shown that genetically are capable of, they physically can change themselves to be as strong as they want, as they can be, right? But let's just say that biologically men are stronger and are better suited to certain types of work. And in our society, we reward that greatly.
Yeah. I think that needs to. It kind of needs to change, though. Like
But
it doesn't
but
make sense anymore.
I want to keep going,
Hmm.
because there are things that women are more biologically suited towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
I
example,
think.
having giving birth, right? It's just right.
Yeah.
But when was the last time a woman was paid for having a child or caring for
Well,
their children, right?
I mean,
Do you know?
technically, I mean, you can think about it. The idea that goes along with that is the payment is the man who goes out to work who supports that family, right? That's the idea.
we
Is you be
we
you.
we might think so,
No, I'm just saying
but
that's like the societal norm. Is like you be the
right,
man, you support the family, you hold up that structure. That's
right,
your responsibility.
right. But
I'm
but
not saying that's
but
right or wrong, but that's just the way it's been enforced for so long.
right. So we're in a society, and I don't want to, because I'm in agreement that it is possible that there's this phenomenon that even makes sense. But with that, if, let's say, the male, the man, the father, let's say the father, because first of all, we don't even want to get into a thing where everybody's even married, where everybody's even in a relationship where they're having children and raising families, right? So that's, I don't want to get too far along those
Yeah, so just to cut you off, I have to go in like 30 seconds.
Go ahead, go ahead. Um,
But yeah.
you know what? Why don't you say your last, whatever it is that you have to say, and I can continue talking about this even after you leave, and we can keep this discussion going, because it's a great topic. It's
Um, I mean, I don't want to, cause any controversy or, make anyone, but I think it's a really interesting idea. It's just that just think about how, um, there's this side of, women who want to be more equal, who want to be more involved. People saying that, all these fields are male dominated,
hmm
and, maybe they're trying to keep the women out or something. But
hmm
I think probably to further that along is, yeah, continue with all of these ideas that are bringing up the equality, the rights of women, and other people, and but at the same time, we should also further people thinking about how men should behave, how like, and maybe it doesn't even need to change that much, but maybe it needs to be more inclusive or more something. I don't know. I just wanted to throw the idea out there.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for throwing that out there. And
Yeah.
I have a feeling that after you're gone, we're going to keep this discussion going for a little bit. So that said, Kerny, have a great whatever it is that you're going off to do. And I hope that you're going to go out and spread some vegan message while you're wearing your vegan T-shirt.
All
And have a great one.
right. You too.
All right, bye now.
Bye. Thanks.
So Kearney asking a really interesting question about, just the areas that men have, men. It's basically sort of like the risk that men have taken to ensure the maintenance of society, really, and what people think about that, and what position does that place us in now. Um, as Grace Lee Boggs says, the time that we are at now on the clock of the world, uh, So I would love to hear what people's thoughts are. So let's see. We've got some comments. People said, I can tell you I do not think it's a trend. Vegan Sister was talking about STEM and doesn't think that STEM is a trend. And Redneck to Vegan, they went back on that. It looks like, Carly, that you did some translation for us about STEM for Lily K. And it looks like Lily K said d'accord, which I guess means that's cool. Um, Somebody talked about the mask you live in, and I'm wondering if that relates to the STEM question or to this, suitability and roles and risk and where we are in terms of, the responsibility that certain people have taken for the maintenance of society. Vegan Sista said it's about male pressure to perform in society. Um, do women want in on those jobs too? I doubt it. So I don't know. Is there anybody who, you know, now that we're on this? Hello, Fofo de Carmelo, VVJ, welcome. What jobs? Hello, Enviro. So we were talking about. We had gotten into a conversation of STEM fields, the science, technology, education, and math, fields that now are male dominated, and the question of why they are male dominated. Is it that women just aren't suited to those fields? Is it that women just aren't interested in those fields? Is it that women are trying to break into those fields and there's something happening on a systemic level that is that is creating barriers for entry for women? And Fofo de Carmelo says, I'm a molecular biologist, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure how you identify what your pronouns are. I don't know if you identify as male or female, but I would love to hear from you, Fofo de Carmelo, if you're interested in guesting to talk a little bit about your experience in the field, in a STEM field. You might be able to at least present some anecdotal evidence of, okay, cool. So let's see how this works out. Let's see. I don't want to surprise folks. And then okay. So Fofo de Carmelo is um on the move right now and in the car with family heading to a baby shower. So maybe not the time, although it would be really interesting to have a car full of people. So nice to have you chat. So just any thoughts that you want to drop into the chat about whether did you encounter barriers as you were attempting to enter that field? What were they? Were they systemic? Were they things basically, were they internalized issues, things that you had to get over yourself? Were they family related? What were the ways? And also, thank you for inviting 117 fans to the broadcast. Wow, you all! We had the Women's March yesterday, and Vegan Sister, while you were chatting, I didn't write down that number, but what did you say, that there were over 2 million worldwide who attended the Women's March yesterday? Really, and I don't want to say that it was necessarily to protest Donald Trump, but it was really to make clear that there were concerns about certain attitudes that have been expressed, right? This isn't just women not liking Donald Trump or anyone just not liking Donald Trump, but there are attitudes that have been expressed that are troubling to people and lead people to think that maybe he won't be their president if he feels this way. So Fofo de Carmelo says that her husband is also a PhD and a mathematician. So we have a whole science and math family. So again, Vegan Sister says there is estimates of 2.9, almost 3 million marchers across the world in solidarity. So today we're having a discussion about, where women stand in terms of their ability to enter the fields of their choices. Um, some folks wondering whether it is even appropriate for women to enter certain fields, uh, asking whether or not women have any interest in entering these fields, and really just trying to get a sense of what that is. And so, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave your comments about this in the description, in the comment section. And if I find any information on the things that were brought up, Kerny talked about this idea of male disposability, which I'm looking forward to Googling and learning a little bit more about. This idea that, men are sent off to war, men are do this, dangerous work. I also kind of want to think, to also lend some thought to these things that, this idea of men as being disposable. Is it all men? Are all men disposable? Or is there a certain class of man in our society who is disposable? I've been doing a lot of reading about, colonizing the Virginia, right? The original colonies, and how, many of the men who were brought to do that work were the men who were considered disposable in that society. They were disposable. Those men were disposable. Not all men were disposable. Some men are disposable. Of course, and Redneck the Vegan says no biological entity is disposable, none. But we also have to think about the mind of the bourgeoisie, who seek to exploit where they can. And there are certain types of people throughout history who continually have been exploited. And it hasn't just been women, it hasn't just been, people of color. There are lots of men who have been exploited throughout history. And what men are those? And with that in mind, in the same way that we see race being set up in from 1680 to 1705 in legal, within the legal system in the United States, or in policies in the United States before we were even the United States, right? To ensure that certain segments of the population would not find solidarity with other segments of the population. Are there mechanisms in place to ensure that there will not be solidarity between men and women? And so even when we're, talking about equal rights for men and women, it's not all men. All men have male privilege, but not all men enjoy those privileges to the same extent, right? So many of the slaves, the slaves were men. They were men. The people who were brought to the bond laborers who were brought from England, they were men, right? Some of them were brought as children to serve, basically as slave labor in the building of the colonies, right? So very, very interested in what folks think about that. I cannot believe that it is 11:51. We have flown through this broadcast. I expected. We've had 2 guests. I'm excited about that, but I wondered if there was a little bit more. So, Vegan Sista, I asked you to hang around, and so we have 10 minutes left, and I did my best to be equitable and give all kinds of voices an opportunity to Redneck to Vegan is saying, does anyone know the true etymology of the word pedagogue? As in pedagogy? As in tech methodologies for education? Vegan, not Vegan Sister. Redneck to Vegan. So, Vegan Sister. All right. So, I tried to be good. I wanted to, before we went in, y'all gonna see a different side of me right now. Y'all gonna see a different side of me right now, because I honestly was trying to give everybody a chance to express themselves. And so, when is it okay to just drag somebody's ass?
Oh my God.
When is it okay? When does an individual cross the line and really the gloves come off and it's time to just drag somebody? Because, there's been videos made, there's been all kinds of horrible things, there's been trolling, there's been all kinds of mess. And see, my thing is, like, I don't want to make a video dragging somebody, right?
Right.
I would rather have you be in the room and let's go. Let's talk about it. But since that person wasn't ready to engage, what do you think about this nonsense of people, trying to derail conversations using, and so what are the things that people use to derail conversations about race, about gender, right? We hear kind of the same things. And, I made a video recently about, this whole idea of black on black crime. What is it about? What do you think it's about? I just need to, y'all go watch. It's just me. This is me and Vegan Sister. We just sat down to coffee. Y'all pretend y'all not here. We just sat down to coffee. And I'm like, girl, what have happened? What happened? Did you hear what he said to me? Did you hear what he said to you? What is that about? What is, and really the question, we've had some conversation in the past. This is not out of the blue, but how do you maintain your integrity? Try to be fair to everyone, try to offer all opinions, right? But still take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
How do you take care of yourself in this?
I've definitely, well, for me, I look at this individual as kind of trolling, because if they really wanted to understand what we were talking about, I know at least I have at one point provided, like, hey, here are some resources to check out if you want to know more about this thing. And that person immediately said, no, that person is an Islamic apologist. I'm not going to read that. So before even going into, like, if you don't even want to get into the resources that I am
read the book.
You should read the book before I'm even going to engage you. Additionally, I have responded to this person with one of my videos. I didn't call this person by name, but I definitely responded to things that they were talking about, and you have as well.
I ain't gonna lie. I have. Everybody knows I have.
And you've actually you've engaged this person in their comment section. So,
yeah.
I think, so again, I look at the individual as as trolling. But I think the conversation that you and I had, hopefully this isn't saying too much, but the conversation you and I had in private.
Come on, you can say, yeah, come on, bring it all. Bring it all. Yeah, we talk, we friends, y'all. We friends.
Just talking about, educating the people who are not that troll, who might see that comment section, and provide those resources for them. And that really helped me to kind of refocus my mind and like, okay, this is how I want to engage this, because it's not for that person, it's for the people who might see this. So it's definitely kind of helped me to stay refreshed and kind of take care of myself and not focus on the individual, but more on like, what is the message I need to get across, and what do I need to talk about, and what resource do I want to provide for people who may look at my videos. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And I'm gonna be honest with you, y'all. If you all saw, if I posted the response that I typed, Y'all see another side. Y'all see another side. But what I end up doing is I end up, writing the post with all my vitriol and everything, and then I look through it and I'm like, what here is useful?
Mm.
What here is useful? And then I try to just take that and post that. Although yesterday I went, I'm gonna tell you, the devil got the best. The devil got the best. The devil got the best of me yesterday, and I clicked that block. I clicked that block, and immediately I was like, "No, I'm not gonna block somebody." And I think I went and started, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I hope I can unblock them because I don't want to block somebody just because they annoy me. I want to block somebody because they're, being violent towards me, and annoying me is not violence to me. Not acknowledging my humanity verges on violence, but it's not until you take action based on that belief that I feel that it's really violence, right? Till you report me or do something that is like truly damaging to me. Although,
Yeah.
I guess if they shut down my channel, y'all would suffer more than me. Y'all would not get to see all this. Y'all would not get to partake in all. No, seriously, it would be until somebody's doing something like that, or like making the environment so hostile that people don't want to engage in the comments. Until somebody's doing that, there's no reason to block. And so I don't know how the devil got the best of me yesterday, and I clicked it. But I even sent an email to the person, and I was like, look, I accidentally, because it was an accident. I didn't really want that person to go away. I was like, I accidentally blocked you. I'm trying to get you back. So hopefully we're going to see more of that person. And I don't know, maybe it was, who was it that said there are no accidents? Maybe this was my way of like firing over the hull. Maybe this is my way of firing over the hull and just saying, look, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm a human. You know what I mean? This shirt was white until I bled red all over it, right? I just, you know what? I'm honestly, and this is to Leslie, I think it's love. I think he has a crush on me. That's right. Spread that rumor, y'all.
Could be.
I think the brother has a little bit of a crush,
Could be.
and he sees all this like wildness out there, putting stuff out there. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I know I'm probably being watched, right? Because you're not supposed to say these things. You're not supposed to say these things, and I'm sure that is like, ooh, I want to be part of that. And it doesn't have to be romantic love, but I want to be part of that. And I think the same thing happened to you. How dare she put it out there like that? Because you just put it out there. You hold that camera right up and you just blam, 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 blam.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know if you guys, I don't know. I meant to put a link. Have you discovered Mexi yet?
Yes, I have. Oh my! I actually.
Firebrand. Go ahead.
So the first video that was made about me, Mexi went hard in his comment section, just full on ally. Just I don't understand. Like it was great. So I actually sent her a message, and I was like, I saw that video, and I just did not have the energy to respond. I just want to thank you for being there for me. I really appreciate it. But yes, if you haven't checked out Mexi's channel, please do. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm. and just was like, and just says it like it is. That video saying, like, why do poor people always vote against their best interest? Mm-hmm. And if you didn't figure out when I was talking about which men are disposable, it's poor men.
Yeah.
It's poor men who are disposable, right? So why do poor people vote against their best interest to serve capitalism?
Mm-hmm.
And it just broke it down, and I was like, wow, this is something that I could show to anybody, and they would they might not agree with it, but they would understand it.
Yeah.
And so that's somebody else that this person has, I don't want to say attacked. It's like mocking. It's mostly mocking.
Mm-hmm.
There's no intellectual honesty. It's just all like canned things that if you Google, you will find 40 of that article, it's all been copy and pasted from the same thing. But if you go to the sources and check the data, you'll see that what they're showing is very flawed, which is another reason that I'm really, this whole idea of focusing on the murder rate
Yeah.
as black on black crime, when there are all so many types of crime that are committed,
Yeah.
and violent crimes.
Yes.
And when you look at violent crimes, everybody's violent. Everybody's violent on the same level, right? Not like every individual, although I think we all have the propensity for violence, but everyone, there's no one group that is more violent than any other group. But what I noted is that in terms of the outcomes of that violence, we see more African Americans dying. And I'm like, I'm sure part of that is like, whatever aggression that person was coming at them with, they came at it, or what was available to them when they were enacting that violence. So the ease with which people have access to things like guns and other things like that, right, in inner cities, right? Also, the way a person is treated once they've been the victim of violence, right? Are they rushing Africans to the hospital, or you know what I mean? And I had already encountered issues with just EMT services in poor communities, not related to violence, but related to emergency situations. And
There's a guy who I went
responses
to.
are slow. Responses are slow.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
There was a guy that I went to middle school with. He was like, my middle school boyfriend, and I Google him from time to time. And he's definitely had some struggles with making some bad decisions, which resulted in him being imprisoned. But in the past couple of years, there was a situation where he was at someone's house and some things went down that he wasn't necessarily a part of, but he ended up getting shot at the party that had some bad stuff going on at. And police get there and they immediately took him to the police station before they took him to the hospital. The man was shot in the leg and they took him to the police station before they took him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind when I heard that.
Right. So then you have someone who the chances of that injury being fatal increase in those situations.
Absolutely.
I'll give you.
Sorry.
I was going to say
part of what was going on. So
he wasn't part. And I'll give you an example. Here is things being skewed. There was a young person that I worked with in a youth program. Every kid is a good kid, but I'm just loving, amazing, talented, artistic kid who was coming home from, it was either, a graduation celebration, it was some kind of celebration with his father. And the parking attendant, got an attitude. And it was, he was full. It was this important day. And he was there with his father. And his ego, it kind of jumped up and he got in the person's face. And they stabbed him to death. No one was convicted of a crime.
Wow.
So we're talking about, crimes that and the person was African American and the person who stabbed them was not.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about the way that certain types of violence get counted as murder, get counted as, self-defense, get counted in these very different ways. So I don't think that we should necessarily trust these numbers. I think that we should just look at the fact that all kinds of violence is happening all over this country and that it's an issue. It's not the issue doesn't have a color.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was terribly, terribly sad. I ended up posting, pictures of the kid was just wrecked after it had happened. But there was no charge. There was no charge. Hit Like a Girl, thanks for inviting 204 fans to the broadcast. Look, everybody, it's been an interesting 2 days. This has been a really interesting conversation. Vegan Sister, thank you for jumping in and just
For having me.
commiserating with me a little. I just needed to be with you. And thanks everyone for your patience. And I know, trust me, I was paying attention. Y'all had a whole side conversation that somebody needs to copy and paste and send to me. Somebody who has my email. Y'all know askme1@regflowers.com. You know, you can always send me an email. Ask me #1 at regflowers.com if you want to, just send me something privately. Somebody needs to copy this whole thing and send it to me. Because yeah, there was some amazing things that are happening. Yes, I'm loving the love. Thank you, Hit Like a Girl, Enviro Curl. Let's say goodbye to Candace. Woo!
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Um, I get so full. Yeah. Um, so that memory came up. That kind of jacked me a little bit, but just to think about. And these are the things that, again, they're invisible. There's there's not even a document of that happening, right? And so how often does that happen in these communities, these vulnerable communities? And I don't want to say that the people living in these communities are victims. These people living in targeted communities, be they, women or immigrants or people from the Middle East who are facing that kind of discrimination, or people of color. I think one of the reasons why, mainstream society, or, people who are part of that social control layer, who don't have to feel it so much, I think one of the reasons that they're often shocked is because we walk through our lives carrying this stuff, and we can laugh and we can smile and we can party and we can have friends and we can do all of these things, right? So we don't walk around like oppressed people. You know what I mean? And so I think that's one of the ways that it remains invisible, right? Enviro Curl, moderates are too quiet sometimes. I've heard several times just in recent weeks, people reading from or referring to a letter from Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail. If you are not familiar with the piece, I want to leave you with that. Please go and check out Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail, and he speaks specifically about the position of the moderate and the role of the moderate in maintaining systems of oppression. Yes, Redneck to Vegan, best wishes to you too. So, wow. All I had, y'all, today was a glass of water, in case you were wondering what I was drinking. But that's it for this video. Those of you watching on YouTube, like it. If you like it, share, comment, subscribe. This is Reg signing off. Love yourselves. Peace.